Perfect.
No segregation, no discrimination, yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation.
Let's go a little bit where it's a little quieter.
Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination, yes on education for all.
Hi guys, good morning. Mady Gomez here at the Capitol. You just saw hundreds of parents are out here on the hallways protesting SB276. We've been talking about this bill since the beginning of the year, maybe even longer, but basically just wanting to catch you up on exactly what is going on here. So SB276 basically cracks down on who gets to skip vaccines in California. I'm talking about exemptions. There's been a lot of some say there's been a lot of loopholes when it comes down to those exemptions. So this bill is supposed to close those loopholes and make it to where there's even like an oversight. It's an oversight bill for these vaccinations. The bill would allow the California Department of Public Health to develop a standard of medical exemptions. There's even going to be a form that all doctors must use, which would then go into a database. So public health officials would ultimately have the authority on overseeing who will be exempt from getting these vaccines. So that's been going on. There's no hearing today. What's happening today here at the Capitol is that Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to sign this bill it could be today or within the next few days. We don't know, but he is expected to sign this bill, which is why you're seeing all these parents out here. All of these parents are here. They're wanting Governor Newsom to veto this bill. Obviously, they're against having this government oversight. And so what's been going on is all year long, we've been seeing parents protesting outside, all over the Capitol, protesting this bill. So today, what happened is that the protest has basically escalated. So now what you're seeing, and what we saw for the first time today, is that a lot of these parents barricaded themselves at the front entrance of the Capitol, not allowing anybody to come in. Some parents, I understand, were also arrested because they were on the driveway. I spoke to a CHP officer earlier today. He told me that it was either 3 or 4 parents that were arrested because they were on that driveway, not allowing anybody to come in. So a lot of movement happening here at the Capitol. You just saw hundreds of parents, of people who are against this bill. And I want to talk to a parent who also is against this bill, but just to get her take, because I want you guys to listen to her. And so, Weaver, what's your first name?
Carrie Weaver.
Carrie Weaver. Okay, Carrie, so tell me about being here today.
I'm here today. Vaccination is not the issue I'm here on. I'm here on to defend the children of California, their right to medical autonomy, the right to medical privacy, and the right to receive an education in the state of California without being required to forfeit those rights.
So, Governor Newsom amended the bill. There were some changes that were made. Are you still not satisfied with those changes?
I'm absolutely not satisfied. The way that SB 276 is written, and in consideration of SB 714, which will be heard today, it violates our children's rights to medical privacy. It requires that in order to even apply for a medical exemption to further vaccination, which for those who are unaware, one would only be applying for that if their doctor has said that they are medically precluded from further vaccination due to their own specific individual medical condition. Applying for a medical exemption in the state of California would require the parents of those children to sign a medical release of information. All of that child's medical records are to be turned over to the state.
Right.
So there's major privacy issues there. When this child grows up and they're an adult, I'm certainly not consenting to having my medical records on file with the state of California. I also would not consent to having the state of California determine if I was required to undergo a medical procedure, vaccination or other. So yeah, I'm here standing up for those children, for their rights to medical privacy, medical autonomy. My girls were here this weekend protesting. They understood that they were here fighting against a bad bill, urging Governor Newsom to veto the bill so that this bill would preclude them from being able to say, I am in charge of my own body.
So obviously I've got to play devil's advocate here because we only have one side and we want to make sure everybody knows both sides. So a lot of people say, there's been part of this is because there's been so many exemptions being done that some people say even doctors have sold some of those exemptions. There's too many loopholes. Not enough kids are getting vaccinated. Obviously with the measles outbreak, that's something that's pretty scary to a lot of parents and to everybody else. But you're here, you're not saying whether it's okay to vaccinate those children. What you're here for is standing up for people's rights.
Yeah, so, and I'm an attorney. The law is very important to me. The right to an education is a foundational right in our country. My children, I have 2 girls, they're 3.5 and 5.5. They are just entering their educational years. Whether they are vaccinated or not, they are entitled to an education in the state of California. That right is being trampled on by this bill.
Tell me about, because what we've seen today is now that there's like an escalation, right? There's an escalation as far as the tactics that are being used. Before we would see a lot of the parents, outside of the building protesting, just like we see other hundreds of bills being protested. But today things changed. We saw the entrances are blocked. Right now there's only one entrance that's open. The other 2 are blocked. So tell me about that. I mean, how that escalated to this point. I mean, it's boiled down to now.
So there have been protests. There have been constituents reaching out to their legislatures for more than a year, for years, since SB 277 was submitted and went through the process. We have been quiet. We have been respectful. I have stood out here in these hallways, urging a meeting with Governor Newsom.
Do you just feel like you're not being heard?
We are not being heard. What's happening in the media is they are labeling this group as anti-vax. I am not anti-vax. Vaccines, I believe, have a purpose in society. What I am pro-education, pro-medical autonomy, and pro-medical rights. All over this country, people are fighting for women to be in charge of their own bodies. This is no different. My girls have the right to be in charge of their own bodies and in consultation with their doctor, make decisions that are in the public interest.
So what happens next? Because we saw, obviously, there's nothing happening here at the Capitol as far as this bill today, unless the governor signs it, which we're waiting for, because he has already talked about, being for it and made these amendments. But as far as the parents go, those who are against this bill, who want him to veto, you guys feel, from what I'm listening to you, is that you're not being heard, and now you are having to do other things in order to be heard, like escalating, like closing down,
right,
like blocking the entrance.
Right. So there are mothers right now who have chained themselves to the entrance of the Capitol to be heard, so that this can be covered. The media is not giving coverage. I very much appreciate you being here today. I mentioned earlier to some people that when the government is trampling on your rights, things do escalate. People chain themselves to buildings. People refuse to move. Mothers were arrested here Friday evening for refusing to move, for standing up for their children's rights.
Carrie, so what happens? I mean, we are expecting the governor to sign this bill. So what happens? I mean, we've got hundreds of folks out here, but if he signs this bill, what happens next? Will you guys continue to protest?
Absolutely. The protests will continue. And what happens next is the next election. The people who have voted in favor of 276 and will vote in favor of 217, we will vote you out. Governor Newsom, we understand that you have hopes of one day running for the White House. If you do not vote for the people of your state today by vetoing SB 276, you will not have our vote when the time comes.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you
so much.
Wanted to make sure we gave you a voice as well. That's what we're here for. So again, guys, hundreds of parents, hundreds of people protesting SB 276, which Governor Newsom is expected to sign either today or sometime this week. A lot of these protests, we've seen them throughout the year. They've been very peaceful. We've seen them outside of the Capitol. We've seen them all around. But today, things changed. Today, as Carrie mentioned, a lot of people just started blocking the entrance to the Capitol. Even the driveway was blocked. Some of the people that did that blocked the driveway, were arrested. I spoke to CHP officers earlier today. They told me that it was either 3 or 4 people that were arrested because they were blocking that driveway. So again, just this protest has escalated. Again, we've seen it throughout the year, but today it was different. Today they started blocking the entrances to the Capitol. Some of them are still blocked. There's only one entrance that's open right now, and it's the main entrance. As you can imagine, the line is extremely long to get into the Capitol for those who work here or those who are protesting here. We were able to get in, but I'm going to turn this around again so you guys can see exactly what it looks like in here. I did want to talk to somebody. You just heard from Carrie, kind of wanted to get their take on what this is all about. A lot of them, you just heard her say, feel that, you know, they've protested in the past peacefully, they weren't heard, so now they're taking the next step, which is this, blocking the entrances. So there's an area to the governor's office. You'll see that area has completely been blocked off. I do understand people can get in. I mean, from when I walked by, it didn't look like it. There's too many people, but you won't be able to hear me when I turn this around because it's extremely loud. But I just want to give you guys, want you guys to see exactly what's going on. So I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to start walking that way.
Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation.
Hey, can I talk to you for a quick second?
Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education.
Might be good too.
Veto the bill.
Okay.
Where can we go? Let's go on this side. It's a little quieter.
Your guess is
Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all.
Veto the bill!
No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill. No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all.
Veto the bill!
No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill.
Hey, thank you again. Wanted to talk to you about just, I spoke to Carrie earlier today about obviously her take on exactly what's happening here, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the protest.
Right.
We spoke about it earlier. Tell me a little bit more, because you guys have been protesting for a very long time peacefully. What changed today?
Well, it's come down to the wire. They keep passing it through, and now it's on the governor's desk to be signed, and we think he's going to sign it either today or tomorrow.
Right,
And
right.
we are saying no. We are saying no. They are not listening, so we are here to tell them we need to be taken seriously. We're Californians. We're not going to tolerate our children being kicked out of school.
Tell me about the escalating and tactics, because before, this is the first time you guys have blocked entrances. You guys have blocked the entrance to every entrance into the Capitol except one at this point.
Yes.
One is open, but tell me about that. Why?
It's a peaceful demonstration. It's a peaceful protest, but this is a civil rights issue, and we have played nice for way too long, and so now we are saying stop, look and listen, and do not sign the bill.
Do you feel like you're being ignored? Is that what's happening?
We're absolutely being ignored. You know, when we have people coming out 20-1 in opposition to this bill, and they keep passing it through, they are not listening to the people. They are not representing the people, and we've had it. We're not going to tolerate this. So we're here to make sure that our voices are heard and that they take us seriously.
Tell me about blocking the entrances and disrupting. I mean, the disruption that's being made.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we're disrupting their day. They're disrupting our lives. They're disrupting our children's education. They're disrupting our children's health rights. They're going to bully people into doing something dangerous to their medically fragile children with this bill. It's just unbelievable. The governor needs to veto this bill.
So far, I understand either 3 or 4 people have been arrested for blocking the driveway.
Right? Yeah. That's what these people have been pushed to that point. Being arrested is nothing. They will go all the way, and then this will continue.
What happens next? I mean, the governor is expected to sign this bill.
Right.
As we mentioned, what happens next? I mean,
these people they don't go away because they're affected. They either have to move or pull their children out of school, and that's not going to happen. So they're going to continue to protest, and they're going to still hammer Gavin. We're going to go to the schools. We're going to keep it going. This is not going to end with SB277. We can still manage getting our kids into schools. Now, no more. So it's not going to end. They probably think we're going away, but we're not.
You know, the Governor Newsom did do some amendments to the bill. I mean, does that not satisfy?
No, the amendments didn't help at all. We thought they did at first, but they do not. It was sort of like, it looked like they were going to placate us by giving us like a grandfathering clause. But the more we looked at it, it's not a grandfathering clause. And besides the fact, even if it grandfathers some of us in there now, it doesn't help the people who have not gotten a medical exemption yet, and the future of children in California.
So what happens next? I mean, we talked about, you guys will continue to protest, but you mentioned doing something bigger, disrupting a bigger disruption.
Right. We're not quite sure. There's a few things on the plate, but this is not going to stop. It absolutely is not. These people are taking off work. These people are making so many sacrifices, financial. They're going to be here all week. They're going to do anything and everything in their power.
When I say a bigger disruption, we talked about this earlier. What does this mean?
We'll see. We will see.
You can't tell me?
But it will continue to escalate. No, there are things that we're talking about, and we really don't want them to see us coming. But this is not going to end.
But can you give us a side of exactly what are you talking about? Are you talking about, like, we already know that disruption here, at the entrances?
We're disrupting the Capitol, but we will also be disrupting schools, as they are disrupting our children from being educated in school.
So you're thinking about going to schools and kind of doing the same thing, not letting kids into schools?
We will see. We will see what happens.
At what point, at this point, what needs to happen besides, are you just demanding for this bill to be vetoed by the governor?
They've got to kill this bill. This is dangerous legislation. This is, disruption of medical rights, education rights. This is unbelievable. This is segregation. They are segregating our children out of schools. And so we will not tolerate it. And we will continue to go until this bill is completely obliterated.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hold on. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I'm going to run outside because apparently there's some arrests happening outside.
Okay.
All right.
Veto the bill! No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all. Veto the bill! No segregation, no discrimination. Yes on education for all.
Okay, so now you just heard from one of the organizers. He talked about, again, just feeling ignored, and I just heard that there are some arrests happening outside, so I'm walking outside right now. Let's see if we can figure out exactly where this is happening at. Do you know where, we understand there's like an entrance or some people being arrested. Do you know where that's happening? The south entrance?
Sure.
Where's the south
If you want the south, you can wrap around to the left here.
It's on the opposite side? All right, thank you. All right, so you can see there's protesters out here as well, and CHP officers at the doors. This is the only entrance that I've seen so far that's been opened. You can see CHP officers here opening the door. So apparently there's some arrest happening on the opposite side of the building, so just kind of bear with me while I make my way over there. I'm good, thank you so much. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get on the opposite side. And again, so I'm going to take this time to just kind of talk a little bit over, for those of you who are just joining, get you up to speed as to what is happening here. So I'm at the Capitol right now, and earlier this morning we got a tip that there were protesters, people who oppose the vaccination bill, opposing this bill. They were protesting. They've been protesting for months, but apparently today it escalated. They started blocking the entrances to the Capitol. And so they also blocked the driveway, and those folks who did that were arrested, is what I was told earlier today. And so we got down here, and sure enough, a ton of folks, all the entrances except one was open. You could see people just next to each other with tape on their face, just right in front of the doors, just not letting anybody in. Absolutely not letting anybody in. So a little bit about SB276. So it basically cracks down on who gets to skip vaccines. In the past, you've had doctors who've given families exemptions for their kids to not have to get those vaccines, and that for many schools was good enough. Well, apparently there's been some doctors have been accused of selling those exemptions. There's been a lot of loopholes. So now the state is cracking down on it with SB276. Sorry, quite the walk. And actually, we're now getting to the other side. So let me show you. Let me turn this around. And Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to sign this bill into law either today or sometime this week, and that's why you've got all these parents and just people who are against the bill out here protesting. They've been protesting for months, but now that protest has turned, as you can see, completely blocking the entrances.
Mothers and fathers trying to protect their injured and at-risk children, anti-vaxxers, and think it's okay to treat us with that kind of
I don't.
Anything, and she had a reaction.
Oh, I'm sorry. So sorry.
We make it very clear.
See the people inside.
Dedicated to the cause, lock themselves arm in arm, risking arrest.
Excuse me, sir. I understand some people have been arrested. Do you know where that is happening or what's going on?
Oh, hey, Robert. Yeah, so this is good stuff. It's
How long do
amazing.
they
Have you
have
been
to
inside
clear?
yet? Oh man, the hallway
Okay.
is filled. There's
Who's
chanting,
talking to them?
It's just pure chaos. It's amazing.
All right. So you heard it there from the officer, CHP officer, saying they are telling these folks that they have to move, basically, that they can't be blocking, and that's currently where we find ourselves. Here we go.
My name is Sergeant Pauly with the California Highway Patrol. I am a peace officer of the state of California. All persons in this area of the state capitol are in violation of Section 1860, subsection A, CC&R. Title 13, unpermitted event pursuant to 14685, subsection C, subsection 2 of the Government Code. You are hereby ordered to immediately leave this area, allowing access to the state capitol. If you do not leave this area, you will be subject to physical arrest and or detention. If you resist moving from this area or fail to submit to an arrest, necessary force will be used. You may leave this area immediately, please. And to clarify, folks, We want to allow access to the Capitol, so we need you to move away from the doors, allowing access to the Capitol.
Thank you, Mama.
Alright, guys, we need you to move back. Move back, please. Thank you.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Still represent California for all.
Guys, we
You
need
can still represent California for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
That's it. Gotcha.
One of my closest friends that I herself. She allowed me to change herself.
Like the arrests are going down right now, Brian is going arrest.
Sorry.
So that's Mama Aaron there.
Can you see?
Duck underneath there, you can see a little bit. Get me in over to the right. Go to the right.
So you can see here a woman who's chained herself to the door.
Get me more to the right.
So heavy police presence there. Going to cut the chains, and disbursement order has been given. They're going to be arresting her, it appears. Everyone's been peaceful, and law enforcement has been very professional this entire time. It's been a very peaceful event. We're trying to get here a better angle for you right now.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron, Mama Aaron.
The woman's been taken into custody,
Keep me up there. Keep me up.
We'll see if
Go
she's
get him,
arrested.
baby.
Just go to the left.
Very emotional scene right now. Put your foot right in my head.
Sorry.
We have another protester here at the door.
Go to the left.
So the second protester is standing at the Run N Street at the Capitol building. She's now being arrested.
Thank you, sister.
So the second protester has been taken into custody. Yep.
We will be heard.
All right, Kevin, you want to stay here? And
All right, so you're seeing it now. You're seeing a lot of these protesters who are blocking the door being arrested by CHP officers. You saw two of them just right now being arrested. One of the women chained herself, so they had to use a saw. And now the officers are moving over to the next protesters. Let me turn it over.
Governor still has a chance to represent us.
Yeah,
He
I'm the
needs
one
to
with
listen to
God's
others.
interview.
He needs to veto these bills.
oh yeah.
I think this needed gentlemen.
I'm getting this for broadcast. Can I just get in here real quick?
Okay, now, okay. So you're gonna get down to the jail.
So as of right now, we don't know if they've been formally charged. They
You're a hero, Mama.
might be detained temporarily. Another one has been detained. The third one back there.
These are dead children.
I'd just like to say this on behalf of
We need some more people to go to the Sacramento jail. We have another 3 mothers. Crystal, Erin, and Jess. We're going to the Sacramento.
All right, so you just saw it. You just saw 3 women just got arrested by CHP officers because they were blocking the entrance into the Capitol. Officers are using bikes to kind of keep people back. So again, these are folks protesting SB 276. Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to sign the bill either today or sometime this week. Some of those protesters have been out here for months. I've been covering this for months. They've been out here, but this is the first time they've blocked the entrance. Some of them earlier this morning blocked the driveway. Sorry, excuse me. Blocked the driveway, and those folks were arrested. I didn't see that, but I was told by CHP officers. This, you just saw, this entrance is now open to the public and the employees. And 3 women were just arrested for blocking the entrance. They did not move when told, and you just saw they were arrested. So right now, let's see what's happening. I think it looks like everybody's now going to move inside.
So at this point, we're going to head into the Capitol.
They were rolling on that.
Can I talk to you? I see you're very emotional. Tell me what's going through your mind. Can you tell me a little bit about why you're crying?
I'm vaccine injured personally, so I don't want to risk that with my children.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you exactly? Can you tell us more? You talked about being vaccine injured. What does that mean?
I actually contracted vertigo and Bell's palsy. The vertigo kept me out of school for a week and a half.
And you know it was because of vaccines?
My doctor told us that it was a combination between that and agricultural chemicals and probably some other things in our environment. It's never clear with doctors. They don't really know. They're not told. They're not talked to.
Tell me about being here today and blocking the entrances. And
these are brave women. I'm obviously just here for support because I have my little one with me, and I'm not prepared to go to jail. Yeah, we have to be here today. We have to stand up. When our rights go, who's next?
Is this a fight for your rights or a fight? Tell me about the fight, because I've been hearing different things from different people.
My children cannot go to school because of SB 277 unless they have a medical exemption. This new bill takes away those medical exemptions unless my children have had an actual violent reaction. That's what happens.
Prior to this bill, were your children exempt from vaccines?
Mm-hmm. They're exempt from vaccines, and then now this bill is coming down and the government Newsom signs it. They can't go to school.
How old are your children? How many children do you have?
I have 2, 3 and an 8-year-old.
3 and an 8-year-old. And they've never been vaccinated?
My oldest was vaccinated up to a year.
Up to a year, and then you stopped.
And then I stopped. She is completely vaccine-free, completely healthy. We've never had an issue. She's been around children, been really, really, really sick, and didn't get anything.
What do you tell those parents? I'm sorry, I have to play devil's advocate. I want to make sure, because we're only getting one side here, so I just want to make sure people understand, because, you know, obviously we've had a measles outbreak in the U.S. Does that concern you? I mean,
Vaccines
to think that...
protect the individual getting the vaccine. Vaccines don't prevent you from spreading a disease.
But what about those parents who say, you know, my children are prone to, you know, getting sick, and then, you know, if a parent brings a child who hasn't been vaccinated into the class?
I say to them, is measles the only disease that you are afraid of? How many diseases do we vaccinate against?
Yeah.
There are many diseases that we don't.
I mean, obviously with the measles, it's just because it's an outbreak. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
And
There's
do you know
so
how
many.
much an outbreak is? What they consider an outbreak? 3 people. And that's not within the same time. Those 3 people can be, you know, weeks apart. That's no.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you. Thank you very much. So you just heard there from a mom who's also I've been hearing a lot of parents say it's not about just the vaccines, it's about the rights. So I've been hearing a lot about a lot of parents saying that this morning. So again, somebody was asking about SB276. What is SB276? So basically, SB276 cracks down on who gets to skip vaccines. It closes down loopholes, is what many people say. The thing is, in the past, a lot of doctors have been accused of selling medical exemptions. Through an exemption, parents were able to not have to vaccinate children, and they were allowed to go to school. So what this bill now does is that the kids will now have to be vaccinated in order to go to school, and it's basically a vaccine oversight bill. This bill would allow the California Department of Public Health to develop like a medical exemption form that all doctors would have to use, which then would go into a database that the government would have. Now, public health officials would be the authority. They would be the ones to review the doctor exemption forms and to say yes or no on whether a child can be exempt from vaccines. So that's what this bill is about. And again, for months we've seen protests out here at the Capitol with parents, with just people who are saying this is not the government's choice, basically. That changed today completely, because we've seen this protest was peaceful, but you started seeing, earlier we got a tip that there were parents or people just blocking the entrances into the Capitol. So we came out here, and sure enough, most of all of the entrances except one were blocked, and you saw some of the folks out here chained to the door, and then ton of folks out here. Then you go inside and there's even more people in the hallways right outside of Governor Gavin Newsom's office protesting. I showed you some of that video earlier. You saw a lot of those folks out there, and again, I did speak to a CHP officer earlier today who told me that this morning 3 or 4 folks were arrested because they were blocking the driveway. And so this was actually the first time we were arrested live. You just saw it. So the CHP officers told them 3 women were arrested. You saw it here on Facebook Live, and now the doors are completely open. I am looking at officers just going in. So let me show you what's going on now. So the doors are now open. You can see a lot of the employees in there. Can't go in there with the camera, but you can see just the employees waiting for people to go in. And now some of these protesters out here are in a line and praying. That's what's happening. And so again, Governor Gavin Newsom is supposed to be signing this bill into law either today or sometime this week. This is why they are all out here. They are demanding that Governor Newsom veto this bill completely. Keep in mind, I was talking to some of the parents and I told them, Governor Gavin Newsom has amended the bill. There's been some changes that have been made, but they're not satisfied with that. They're saying that's not enough. They said at first, you heard earlier from one of the parents. He told me at first it sounded like it was fine, and it sounded like they were gonna be on board. But after looking at it, they said it wasn't good. It wasn't a good bill. It's not something that they could be on board with, and they said no. And so they organized this. And my understanding from speaking to one of the organizers is that it's not going to stop. Even if Governor Gavin Newsom signs this bill, makes it into law, they're saying they're not going to stop. They're going to continue to protest. The other gentleman that you heard from earlier mentioned that there's going to be even more protests that are going to be kind of like what you saw today, but they're saying that they're going to take it to school. So blocking school entrances, something like that is what he sounded like he wanted to do. He couldn't get into too many details, but that's what he was talking about. So so that's what's happening out here at the Capitol, guys. Just wanted to wanted to let you guys see exactly what is going on, because this has been going on all morning. But yeah, we're going to continue to follow this. We're going to have more for you later on in the newscast. And of course, if anything else happens, we'll go live on Facebook again.